Oh, wait.
Oui.
I gotta mute that. Sorry.
Oh, my goodness. Dennis, are you okay,
Whoa.
man?
I'm back.
It's
I'm back.
We had to
Coughing,
skip a week
laughing
because you were in the ailment,
Out with the cold.
out with the cold.
With a 1-year-old dripping snot down its nose as I'm patting her to sleep. I can't imagine where I might have caught it.
Yes.
Your grandkids get sick and you're taking care of them. Guess what? You're going to get sick.
Yeah, the notoriously, when you first take your kid or your grandkid, I suppose, to daycare or to kindergarten or whatever,
They come back sick as shit.
they bring all the viruses back to you to get to boost your immune system.
Yes.
So,
yes.
you survived, it seems.
Well, yeah. I mean, cough, cold. My wife hers is lingering. Her post, COVID lung issues, which are so real. That's why they upgraded it to a disease. So I don't know. It's it's going to be with us forever. That's all. And there's another variant coming up now. I mean, it's the new way we'll live. And,
we're apparently in Spain. They are deciding. Look, if you have symptoms, maybe don't even come and get tested. And also, if you test positive, don't go to work until you feel better. But they're not doing this 10-day. You have
I
to.
can't
stay
believe
at home.
that your authoritarian government has gone that lax. Are you sure? Is that?
Look, I'm reporting what I have heard. I have not listened directly to the president to
Or
tell me
news
these things.
feeds?
No, I'm getting this third hand, not even second hand. So, it's at some point. Well, and also in some places, like in some airports, they're lifting mask requirements.
Yeah,
but
most not.
At some point, we have to just accept that we're all going to get this, and
herd immunity.
At some point we've done as much vaccination as we can, and the rest is just going to have to happen like we do with
and
flu
right.
and those things.
It's the everyone gets it, and then there's herd immunity because it's more like the common cold, as you say.
Right,
Which,
exactly.
I got a home test kit, so I quickly knew. When I got back from my trip, I tested before I interacted with anybody just to make sure, and then I tested again after I had cold-like symptoms, which are identical, except in some respects to COVID symptoms.
For me, COVID was less than any cold I've ever had. All my colds are at least 2 or 3 days of symptoms, and COVID was 4 hours of symptoms. But
so I talked to you since I went fishing at Pere Marquette and caught my.
No, that was your plan last time we left. Last time we spoke, you said you were going fishing, and you weren't sure if you were going to go on the Thursday or the Friday, or because of traffic and other weekend fisher folk.
I was wet in the water at quarter afternoon and fished until
I was wet in the water. Quarter afternoon.
And long story short, after fishing a couple of places, no, actually fishing one place and then moving to where a more familiar hole, and then fishing it for a while, then moving upstream, I went back to where I've always caught a fish, And I've been there like 4 times maybe, no matter how big or how small or whatever. But anyway, hooked into a beautiful rainbow trout and ran upstream and downstream. And
you were riding the rainbow.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was not a rainbow. It was a brown trout.
Oh,
which are
wait, riding gorgeous. The brown doesn't sound quite as nice.
No, not quite. Riding the brown all around town. But I'll send you a picture. But here's the story: is that just after what was nice about that catch is that I caught him square in the lip, and with one quick pull, the hook was free. I got my fly back. I got my lead back. I got my indicator ball back, and it was all ready to go again. And I let the brown trout go and just took the line and threw it right back. But you ripped
you ripped a hole in his lip.
No, there was no ripping going on. Where the hook went in, I pulled it out.
I thought you said with one
easy reverse.
Okay.
With one good. Pull, but it's with a tool with a
sensitive
like needle nose pliers. Yes. Okay. So it didn't get hurt. I pride myself in that.
Okay,
at least as a hook in your mouth, but clean is the point. And plus, the major point is that I had my whole rig ready to go.
He experienced
I threw it in 3 more times and then hooked into a 2-foot long rainbow trout.
Oh, yeah.
Probably weighed in at 5 or 6 pounds. And it jumped out of the water and kind of bobbed its head and then jumped back in the water. And as fast as it could, it swam behind me.
Wait, it jumped back in the water? From where?
From in the water.
From the air.
It jumped out of the water into the water.
Okay.
Out of the water, into the water, up and down. And went behind me in a 40-foot wide stream, river, actually. So I put my pole straight up in the air. And sure enough, the line went around me, didn't tangle on the trees. And the fish went in the current. And it tangled up in my line in the current so that now its tail had my line wrapped around him. And so I didn't want him to break off. So I let up a little bit and he started going downstream in a curly position with his tail kind of showing because he was hooked around the line. And I was hoping he'd flop away from it or whatever. And just a moment later, got to a point where the line was taut and he moved and he snapped it off. But it was for me, it would have been a prize fish. And you imagine the difference, and I know what your answer will be, between a 14-inch brown trout and a 24-inch steelhead, which is a type of a rainbow trout that lives in the lake, perhaps.
Wait, I know the difference. 10 inches.
I knew you would say that. It was predictive. So it was a blast.
Nice.
It was a blast. And I just, wish I would have ran toward it and chased it downstream and been able to net it.
You got to ride the rainbow, man.
And I might have in that case, yes. And I might have had all of what I described to you with the fish and the shaking and the swimming behind me, that was 6 or 7 seconds. This was zoom zap zoom 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 bam. I mean,
whoa,
I
man.
describe it. It sounds
like more laborious.
Extended. And of course, in my mind, it's all in slow mo.
Right.
What is that?
Riding the rainbow.
Where is it going?
Oh my God! It's behind me. There it goes, and it snapped. Man,
that jujitsu.
Yes.
I wish I was a samurai. If I had the samurai skills, I'd be fishing better. I get the fish on, I jump out of the water, click my heels. Right?
Trout Jitsu.
Very good. Very good.
Is the
Trout
title
Jitsu.
Of this episode.
That's right.
Trout
and little did we know that when the trout hears this and sees this, it dances on the water on its tail as if it knows exactly what we mean.
Look, man, I think when we're not there observing the trout or just dancing around on top of the surface of the water. Like,
why not?
It's like that.
That's what you would do, and you're certainly no smarter than a fish.
It's like that. One of my favorite Far Side cartoons where the cows are all like standing on two legs and talking amongst each other, and then one cow on the top of the hill that's on the lookout says "car," and then all the cows get down on four legs and are just sitting around doing nothing until the car drives by, and then they all stand up again and start talking, as if that's what cows do when no humans are observing them.
Right.
Good.
You love cows.
I love cows.
Well, he did too.
Yes. Well.
So we had a 70-degree day.
Cow Jitmu. No, sorry.
Trout Jitsu.
Trout Jitmu. No.
Trout Jitsu move.
So tell me about your weather, because I have weather.
70 degrees and felt like spring had sprung, and put the outside furniture out and swept, and I'll rake after the bugs that are living in my lawn have hatched about May 1st.
Mayflies?
Before I rake them. Say it again.
Are they mayflies? Or are they June bugs?
Well, if they're June bugs, I'd have to wait longer, so I don't think they're June bugs.
Speaking of springing, it's kind of a shame that we couldn't record last week, because these are the 2 weeks in which we are closer in time zone.
Oh.
Because America has changed to daylight savings time, and Europe has not yet until this weekend.
Why don't we get rid of the time zones? I mean, what?
Well, that's certainly what your Congress is all up in arms about. I heard an interesting report about that particular bill, where everyone was surprised at the bipartisan support in the Senate. That like everyone was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, because whoever proposed it timed it to go right after the time changed, and after the time changes, everyone's all bitchy about the time having changed, and everyone just sort of agreed.
Yeah, this is stupid, right?
But no one. But apparently, all of the research and evidence and science and whatnot around this is that changing the time does hurt us and does cause there's a higher incidence of heart attacks and strokes, and like people are having 1 hour less of sleep for the entire nation with that many people does cause harm. But also, it's not clear from the evidence which of the two times, whether daylight savings or non-daylight savings, is superior. And actually, having more light in the mornings in the winter is better for, like, there's less traffic accidents and stuff. And apparently 40 years ago in 1974, 50, they did this. They abolished daylight savings time, or like they went to only daylight savings time. And very quickly, within a year, it was discovered that actually sucked, and they rolled it back immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this has been done before, and this has been done before when Biden was voting for it. Was that common knowledge at the time of the vote? I mean, no, it's not common knowledge. Look,
right.
No, the legislators, the senators don't know history. They don't do research. They don't look at the scientific evidence. They're just schmucks like you and me. and they go into work.
That's not true. That's not true because
Well,
neither one of us would do anything of the kind. We wouldn't vote just nonchalantly. It only takes a second to find out.
Yeah, you would think it would be that easy, and you would think
that easy.
That you would think
it's just that it's overcome because they're just that lazy.
That it is that easy. Yes, you would think that it would be that easy to do, but I don't think that they do. I think they just like go into work and they have their coffee and they watch the news and then they go into work and they don't do a whole lot of reading.
I don't need to. I know without anyone telling me why. I know my gut. I'm smart,
right?
And I make right decisions. And I'm saying, based on just my gut on this, I'm voting X, Y, and Z. And frankly, information to the contrary be damned, because of course you can find research to support any position.
Right, exactly. And they go in there and they're like, I am kind of tired because we lost an hour this weekend, and damn it, my microwave had the wrong time on it, and it was annoying, and I had to double check, and I didn't know if I needed to change this clock or that clock, and man, doggone it, I'm frustrated. Like, why do we do this? Wait, I'm in charge. We can decide not to do this, and without any let's see what the long-term repercussions would be, or if we've tried this in the past. There's none of that.
How long was the only other time they did it?
I don't know. It wasn't more than a year before they reverted it, I don't think.
Well, part of it is that all the technology is geared to respond to that, and so that could be a pain. And you could,
these days, my computer and my phone and my watch and most of my electronics automatically change the time. Of course,
that's what I mean.
Right, exactly.
And so in doing that, it takes time and money, as you well know.
Well, and it's also I remember I was already writing computer programs when the Congress decided to make daylight savings time wider. Before, I think the U.S. was in line with Europe, but then 10, 15 years ago, they said, no, we're going to do it. We're going to go into daylight savings time 2 weeks earlier and leave 2 weeks later to have more summer time. And that broke a lot of computer stuff, because the way your computer tracks time is milliseconds from January 1st, 1970 in GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. And so what your computer thinks the time is a number from that moment. And then your computer knows, well, okay, you've told me that now we are, now you are in Spain or you're in Michigan, and we know that we are in March. So now I know that I can tell you that this is the particular time. But when they made that law change, all the computer programs and all the operating systems had to be updated.
Right.
So it's going to be a big.
And it won't go for that.
It won't go through the House, no, because the House is going to be like, wait a minute, you guys rushed all this, and now it's been a couple weeks since we changed time, and I don't feel so frustrated. So
I've taken a minute to think about this. So
right,
they're closer to the people. They're more blue collar than white.
In
the House.
In Europe, they've made motions towards this as well, in the EU, but again, it all sort of falls. It's the status quo
is easier.
Is easier, and it doesn't. People aren't that.
They're not that miserable about it.
Apart from 2 weeks in the year, people don't really give a shit.
I don't give a shit for more than an hour and a half.
Well,
that's how I feel about it.
That's good thing we've got you for this hour and a half to record the podcast when you actually give a shit. Because
well,
the rest of the time,
it's fascinating when you consider time within the perspective of longevity and other temporal issues.
When is time? Is it my question?
Rainbow time.
Oh yeah,
it's rainbow time.
Trout Jitsu.
Steelhead. Trout Jitsu.
So I have a bizarre weather phenomenon to report about. Do you have any idea what I'm referring to? A thing happened here last week that was the first time this happened in 100 years.
A tornado touchdown.
No.
What? Hailstorm.
No, we have hailstorms. Last week, I saw photos of southeastern Spain where it looked like the photos from the surface of Mars, where the sky was just red and pink and orange and rust colored. And then, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It was like this dust storm from the Sahara that had blown over part of southern Spain. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I went to bed and I woke up the next morning, and here at the very northern tip of Spain, everything was coated in this fine, silty, rust-colored dust. All the cars were covered, and when I walked outside, it was noticeably harder to breathe.
Oh, no shit.
It was like you were near a fire.
Was the air? Would it seem foggy?
Yes, the air did not have a particular orange color to it, but the visibility was poor, and
some density.
It was like fog, but it was just hard to breathe. And luckily,
were there health warnings issued, and
yes,
compromised lungs should stay indoors.
Yes, my weather app on my phone said that the current air quality is very dangerous, and encouraged you to not be outdoors. However, luckily, we have spent 2 years distributing masks to everyone.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of useful to have an N95 mask to put on to walk outside.
Right. Like you never would have imagined back in the day. When this first scare came up and there weren't any masks to be found anywhere, I went to my workshop and I found an entire package of N95s that I bought when I'm cutting wood.
Right, for doing...
And I found fucking gold.
Right.
That's how it felt.
Exactly.
I found gold. I found a treasure.
Indeed. A treasure in the wood shop.
Hey, have you been catching any news feeds about Nicolas Cage and this new film he's in that's called something like The Magnificent Issue of Being Incredibly Famous? Or something like this. I'm slaughtering the title, but it's all after his Pig, the movie that he was so broadly praised. He was snubbed at the Oscars for it. Which
Pig?
Pig. It was about a chef in Portland, Oregon, who cops out and goes off the grid in Oregon. and hunts truffles for a living, and he has a truffle pig. And this dude who comes and buys his truffles finds him in the woods, not only beat up, but his pig is gone. And so the movie is about.
I hate it when that happens.
Yes, and that's called Pig.
I've never heard of this.
Wildly acclaimed. And then in the meantime, of course, the list of all the terrible movies that Nicolas Cage has ever done, right? Which are legendary.
Right.
And he says, you know what? I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I never left anything. I put it all on the field.
Right.
I never left. I put it all on the table.
I respect that so much.
I went for it.
I've never heard of this pig movie.
Oh my God.
A truffle hunter who lives alone in Oregon wilderness must return to his past in Portland in search of his beloved foraging pig after she is kidnapped. Whoa. Nope.
And he's got this huge birthmark over his left eye.
Okay.
Big star shaped. And he's anyway. But I think of more interest for our discussion is the next one. Which,
hey, you know who should have started in that?
Arnold.
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, speaking of which, my wife and I both completely rewatched Footloose. When as a 22-year-old, he played a 17-year-old, and had an interview from him a couple of years later, when he said, somebody asked him, how much of that dancing scene in the warehouse did you do? And he said, I didn't do all of it. And that was really fucked up because I wanted to do all of it and they wouldn't let me. So they had 3 gymnast dancers who did it, who were my doubles.
Footloose.
I was fascinated by that story because it's iconic dance scene.
Footloose. I have a very distinct memory of the first time I heard that song. And it was in your house as a kid. Your son Aaron put that on, and we were just dancing. I don't know if he I guess we were dancing, but I specifically remember that song, but way before I even knew that was a movie.
Well, Google the year of that song and we'll figure out how old you were.
I mean, probably the same as the movie, 1984, but...
How old were you then?
I would have been 6, but when that came out, but...
Could have been later.
Oh yeah, but that would have been later. But like...
Could have been 8.
At 6, you
don't remember. Could have been any time, and you're still playing it.
Yeah, at 8. But I suspect I was 8 years old. But yeah. I remember that song and learning about it, like something about almost no songs have a place where I remember hearing them the first time. There are a couple, but that's one in particular that I don't know. That's interesting.
That is interesting, and let's see. That was in North Carolina. That was at Shady Grove in the Yellow Farmhouse.
Yes, probably.
We used to have the volleyball.
Yes.
Parties. Do you remember? Well, you didn't come to the toga party we had out there, but that was a bunch of people turned 40 years old in the same year, and we hosted a toga party, and the everyone had a toga on, of course, and the pictures are just a slice of our collective.
You need to send me some pictures if you can find.
I'd have to find them.
I'd be very curious to see those.
They're not digital. They're
of course
physical pictures back then. But
yeah, I have very clear memories of exploring the woods and space around there. There was some other like building further away, like a garage or something.
Oh, there was a shed that held goats in it. And then a barn that I finally took down that was dilapidated in a fenced-in field. But the goat pen, next to the goat pen was another area that had an access door outside and inside where it was more storage. And we kept goats in there. I milked the goats. I remember we got the goats, and the sons of bitches got a sickness in their udder. Where they were squirting blood, and so the milk was useless. But you had to milk them the same every day, no matter what, and then throw the milk out. And so it was like
pink goat
milking
milk.
A goat is often not very fun because when they kick you, they're so fast that it's bound to hurt. So you just gotta get down to business. But I was a pretty good milker. I was able to take the udder of a goat and squirt my children in the face with the milk. So that speaks highly of my skill.
Hey, not everyone.
Come over here. You want a drink? Unpasteurized goat milk, fresh from the tit. We homeschool our kids. They grew
nice
up with raw goat milk, fresh from the tit.
Hey man, that's like eating a fruit off of a tree. It's still warm from the mother's
fruit. There's an old hey.
So
hey, go ahead.
Okay. No, I was going to pop a couple layers off the stack here and talk about how wild it was having the air here full of sand.
Oh yeah,
and
right.
How there was like 2 days, like at the end of the second day, it was supposed to rain. And I was like, I've never wanted rain more in my life because like we needed the water to fall through the air to clean it out. And, it's going to rain at 4 p.m. And then 4 came and 5 came. And then I looked at and the forecast said, no, it's going to start raining at 10 p.m. I was like, okay, fine. And so I went to bed. And I thought, it's going to rain all night. Like the forecast is for rain all night. We're going to wake up in the morning and it's going to all be nice and clean. And I woke up the next morning and the ground was bone dry and there was still dust everywhere. And I was like, what the
hell? It was like
apparently
living on Mars, huh?
Apparently, when there's a lot of wind, the rain just like blows over us until it gets to the mountains, and then the moisture goes up and it rains in the mountains. But it was really kind of rough, and it really hasn't, even since then, it hasn't really properly rained. But there's been enough air movement that everything is all clean now. But so
was it like living on
cars are filthy,
planet, or as you'd imagine it?
No, it was just like, I don't want to be outside because it hurts to breathe. And my son, who had some asthma when he was younger, was okay being out playing in the park in recess or whatever. But it was super weird, and like all the locals have never seen anything like that. But apparently, from what I've heard, some crazy percentage, like 15-20% of the dust in Eastern America, in like North Carolina, the dust that you find in your home in North Carolina, like some crazy percentages of that is like Saharan sand.
Really?
Like because it
so,
just blows across the ocean.
Right?
It blows across the ocean, and the rest of it is like dead skin cells or whatever. But whatever, that's neither here nor there.
Nice. Wait a minute, I'll be right back. I want to shower.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was in dusty conditions many times, and was always found it remarkable how hard it was to exist with the swirling, blowing
Right.
And I was outdoors for all of it.
It's the only time it really reminded me of was in the summer. Sometimes we go to my father-in-law's hometown, and the industry there is charcoal, I guess is what we would call it, where they take a particular kind of wood from a particular tree and they like burn it a little bit to however it is that you make charcoal, where you take wood and burn it a little bit so that it's ready to be burned better and easier later. And in that town, sometimes the air is just full of this like silty smoke. And we've spent
like webby, like almost like fine.
And we've spent nights there where I was like really struggling to breathe. Like every time I took a breath, it was like there wasn't enough oxygen or whatever. And that was,
crazy.
Sucks.
Crazy. Well,
here's to being able to breathe.
Other planets, because how many sci-fi movies have you seen where the dry Saharan type swirling dust, turning into locusts or dust storms? The late Raiders of the Lost Ark series had one of the most. No, it was Mad Max. Furioso is Charlize Theron as Furioso and Tom Hardy, who, by the way, could not stand each other during the entire filming of it, as the rags say. And Charlize said that she felt unsafe around him and just ridiculed him for always showing up late and keeping the cast waiting. And then when he said stuff to her, is like he's practically threatening. I want a female assistant director with me at all times when I'm around.
Damn.
And boy, could you see that in that film. If it helps
talk about Fury Road.
Yes. But anyway, that was the iconic sandstorm scene. Best in any movie, I think.
I've seen some behind the scenes stuff of.
Hey, here's to the dust, man. I got it, Smittix.
Oh yeah, I've seen some behind the scenes stuff of the scenes where they were like on a moving vehicle through the sand.
Yes,
and with explosions and shit happening, and just how wild that was.
Yes,
it's pretty crazy. I've done some homework.
Oh, well,
you will be surprised too.
I'm already surprised, as you can well imagine. Tell me, what have you done?
I've been watching some television from the year 2000.
Yes,
I have watched the first season of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh no, shit!
And it's the pilot is such a perfect encapsulation of what that show, at least in the first season, is. And from the clips I've seen, it's like, I've got to say, I think in Seinfeld, George Costanza was my favorite character. And this is the George Costanza show. It's all of the most bizarre situation. Like he really puts the situation in situation comedy of getting into these. Like he is a little bit of an asshole, but also like the world is against him at every step. Anything that could go wrong does go wrong. Right. And it's just been, I can't say delightful because it's so cringe cringeworthy while you're watching it. It's not it's not a relaxing watch.
It's cringingly funny.
Right, but it's my kind of comedy. I love the uncomfortable comedy where clearly you've just done something that makes it look like you are totally against handicapped people, but actually, you did it. You didn't know what you were doing at the time was going to come off that way or whatever.
No, you didn't care. It's not that you didn't know. It never crossed your mind. Never. Right. It just doesn't. Larry just doesn't think about stuff like that. He's much too self-centered to
and
be concerned about anything outside of his own body. And in this case, with handicapped special need people, his own lane, so to speak.
Right, but it's just so I can empathize with him.
Sure.
Because
he's every man.
He's super every man.
He's every man.
And just the worst possible things happen to him.
So
anyway. It's super well, hold on. But it's super interesting to travel in time like this because this was filmed in the year 2000, and so first of all, it's 4:3. It's not it's not widescreen, and but also they're using cordless phones at home, and their cell phones are only in their cars, and they've got this newfangled navigation system that is in their car that no one knows how to use. And it's so of that time that it that I don't know, I find it very
well. And you have
people call each other.
You have 99 episodes to look at, right?
There's or
80,
there's
80
12 seasons or something like that. So at some point they took a break. It's not one per year,
or more actually.
Yeah,
but I've never missed one.
Right. So
and as the years go on, they get crazier and crazier. I mean, there's no end to the wildness. But one of the things that I'll remark on this, and it's just a little bit of a spoiler, is that later episodes you learn that the way Larry decides whether his coffee is warm enough is he sticks the tip of his nose in it.
Okay.
And there are an entire season built around that fact. An entire season.
Right.
Oh Lord.
It's just the little idiosyncrasies of this of this one guy, and God bless his wife that has to deal with all of this. But in the first season, they make a big deal about when is the cutoff for when you are allowed to call someone at home at night.
Right.
After 10 p.m. Can you call someone? Is it 10:30? Is it 9:30? And in the same way that Seinfeld was all about these little tiny little bits of life,
the minutia of life
that we can all but that we all relate to, because everyone has some idea of, oh wait, it's too late to call someone, but where do we draw that line? And how do we investigate what that line is across society? He was trying to call someone at 10:20, and his wife said, "No, the cutoff is 10." And he was like, "Oh, come on!" So he called, and immediately he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. We'll talk tomorrow." And then, not in the same episode, in the next episode, he called someone. And he was like, it's only 9:50. It's not even 10. I can call. And that particular person thought that 9:30 was the cutoff.
Right.
And then a couple episodes later, he's calling someone at 10:45, and he says, "Yeah, but this is good news. So if it's good news, that's a later cutoff." And anyway, that sort of just minutia of life.
Minutia of life.
Is the description.
He's a funny man. I Google his event and award speeches because he's without exceptional. He is the he is the new Don Rickles in so many ways. Except he.
And there are some moments where he can't, like, he can't keep a straight face. Like there are some takes that make it in where he's like sort of laughing at the scenario, but yeah, and the fact, like, one thing that I knew about the series before I started was that they have all of these cameos from celebrities because, like, he's so well connected that he can pull in all these people. And like episode 2 is with Ted Danson and his wife.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Hey, they're permanent characters.
Yeah. Okay.
They're Ted Danson and
Mary Steenburgen. Yeah. Yeah.
She was just in a show. What the fuck was it? Oh, it was that crazy that like quasi horror about the carnival guy, and it was Bradley Cooper, and that he had an act of predicting the future. One of these guys, could read minds and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And it got a lot of really positive press, but we saw it. It was like, I don't know. This isn't all that good. What the hell was the name of that? Maybe you've heard of it. I don't know.
Nightmare Alley?
That's it. Nightmare Alley.
Not heard of it.
No. Well, yeah. And I'm sorry I brought it up because you don't need to. It's not very good.
So remember last time I mentioned a show I was watching, this series called Undone.
Yeah.
That was this sort of animated series. I think there were like 8 episodes where it was this woman who was like sort of contacted by her dead father and was sort of traveling through time and was learning how to control time, and her father wanted her to go back and save him from a car accident.
Correct.
And
right. Yes.
And her father was this like particle physicist that had discovered how to control time. And
oh no shit.
And like what he discovered, when he was alive, he thinks was why someone had him killed, because it was like this super powerful thing. And it was I highly recommend seeing Undone. It was a well done. No pun intended.
What platform is it on?
Amazon Prime Video.
Add it to my list.
And yeah, it was very, very good. The father is played by Bob Odenkirk, who is obviously
from
amazing.
Australia?
No, Bob Odenkirk is an American comedian. He's the guy in Better Call Saul and previously in.
Oh yeah, okay, right. Yes,
and
of course.
Famous for Mr. Show, which is first thing. But what blew my mind, like that was an amazing show. But then we were flicking around Netflix, picking a movie to watch with the family, and we settled on a movie called The Atom Project, starring Ryan Reynolds. No. Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, of course.
Ryan Reynolds, who really only plays one character. He is the same in every single movie. I love that character, but he's the same character.
Cracking
everyman smartass.
Loosey goosey, just
yeah.
have an enjoyable life.
And so this movie, the plot of this movie was, it's this guy that from the future, from 2050, who comes back and meets his younger self.
Right.
But then the rest of the movie is this plot where he and his younger self have to travel back in time to prevent their father, who invented time travel, from dying in a car crash.
Huh.
And I was like, what
did they buy the rights? They must.
It's super identical, but that was a fun movie. It's,
so aren't there legal ramifications of the proximity of the plots? I think there are. There must have been rights. You can't take an idea like that and can you, like a song, right? I mean,
so songs actually, it's very, very hard to prove that that a thing like that was taken whole cloth. And in fact, I recently watched this amazing YouTube video. There's this YouTuber musician guy named Adam Neely, I think his name is, and he will go and super dissect parts of music or whatever. But he did this one episode where he looked into this case where one song that it clearly sounds identical to another song, and the previous and the people that published the first song are suing the other people because it's clearly the same song. And he goes in to explain, how the chord changes are like this and how they're more or less identical and the rhythms are more or less identical. One of them uses a seventh chord instead of a major chord, but other than that, it's totally identical. But then he goes and explains how actually the first song, the people that are filing the suit, their song is also like these other 7 songs that came before it, identical, and like it's just a common chord change, a common chord progression, and that it's so hard, right? You can't prove that they took this from you when you clearly took this subconsciously, not consciously, from all these other people, and how legally it's so complicated to make a case about any of this, because there's only so many chord changes that sound good, and just because you've thought that your G, C, and D song sound, or someone else's song sounds similar to yours, it's such a shaky ground that you're on legally. And so I imagine that for movies and plots and stuff, it's got to be so similar, because there's only so many time travel plots you can have, and some percentage of time travel movies are going to be about preventing some accident that happened to someone previously. So I don't know.
Well, you sparked my pleasant memory of this past weekend where friends of ours had us after the fact St. Paddy's Day annual bash, and they had it in the house we sold them, and that was
yes.
Tony and Kate. Tony is the sax player from Favorite Boys, and Kate, the artist who's just my wonderful work.
What has she done with that house?
Oh my God!
Because that was like from episode 12 we were talking about.
We kept it. We kept it in character of the time and had nothing flagrant to detract from that. Rose floral furniture and heavy oak tables and antiques everywhere. And now when you walk in, in the main room. They put a chandelier, very brilliant and very unusual, and a whole shelf of bottles and collectibles and whatnot over a huge dining table, and fixed the fireplace and tore out one of the cabinets in the kitchen and put in all white tile and put in new lighting and refaced all the cabinets. And you go in the back dining room, which was the selling point of the house for her, which in fact you recall, I sold the house because of this room.
Right.
And you know the story about me leaving flowers there for her as the welcome, and then me having to go back and get them because the people who owned the flowers were after me, and in the front yard in a van waiting for the flowers that were incorrectly delivered to my house, which I decided since I had them, I'd give them to her and welcome her in.
That is the most Larry David story.
I had to go in and take them back.
That is Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Running.
All the way.
Running. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, I got these flowers aren't mine. They're not yours. I hope you enjoyed them for the minute that you had to look at them. I got to go there waiting. And it was a van full of a family, right? Looking for the flowers that they sent out for Grandpa. It's like, holy crap.
To take to Grandpa's grave?
No. Because he got better from an illness.
Oh, okay.
And he recovered from surgery or whatever. God, was I moving fast.
But that is an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
It could be. But
giving
here's
flowers
the point.
and having to take
Here's why I started the story is that because he had the St. Patty's Day, he and his wife Kate both in kilts to the nines with a full
kilts to the nines,
full Irish dinner of cabbage and carrots and onions and corned beef and beef tips. And potato soup, and which was like eating a cloud. It was so fabulous.
Eating an Irish cloud.
And then after drinks and whatnot, and lots of discussion, to Danny, who's of the 25 people there were probably 10 of them that were musicians, including the compatriots of Tony and his band, the Out of Favor Boys, who had their three main players, their two guitar players and a sax player, Tony. And anyway, Danny came to me and said, "Hey, come on, let's go out in the living room and tell me what harps you got." And he picked a G, and we started jamming blues with a 12-string folk guitar.
Yeah,
that he plays very, very, very well, and got things going with about 3 blues tunes. And other guitar player picked up, and he had a little electric thing going on. He had a Stratocaster and had a little amp on that. And we did 3 or 4 blues tunes. And then Tony came out in his kilt, and what we were jamming on, which was just a jam, he had lyrics to, which was about legalization of marijuana, as it turns out.
No.
And just riffed from some notes he had that I think he was writing as he was listening to the music. And then he opened it up with his sax. And in our big, huge living room with 20 or so people sitting around, everyone with a place to sit around the tables and the chairs and the couches, out from the hallway comes in Eddie Lester, who's not only a phenomenal singer and runs a band called Crossroads Resurrected, which of course is the second iteration of his original band, which was simply called Crossroads.
Obviously. And
Eddie walks out with a different sax and starts to call and respond with Tony.
Nice. And
now we got 2 saxes going, and a guy's got a snare drum in front of him and a stick, and it was so much fun. You know
what they call that in Ireland?
Pardon?
You know what they call that in Ireland?
What?
It's called craic. Where people come together and just have good time and bond and coalesce in this way that's, as we discussed previously, where it's like you're summoning God, where you're just all coming together in this beautiful way. They call that craic. It's a
C-R-A-C-K?
C-R-A-I-G, I think.
Craic?
It's not Craig, but it's like, it's spelled
Craig.
like something like that. They call it craic.
And it's with a hard C at the end?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
You got high on crack, basically.
Right. That's, excuse me a second.
Okay. Dennis is muted and he's coughing.
Sorry, man. You have to edit that out.
Oh, here it goes. Coughing. And we're back.
You can't hear that, right? Any of that?
No, that's why I was narrating.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you were. well then, you're showing your skill level.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. Well, I gotta say that did you end up going anywhere in that dust? Because I would have wondered what it would be like to look at the sea.
No, I made my best effort to close all the doors and windows and stay the fuck at home, as we used to say back in 2020.
Right. Well, and that longing for the rain was.
It still hasn't really properly rained.
Right. Isn't there nothing like the smell of rain in a humid day? When it finally rains and the pavement,
there's a word for that.
Steams.
Do you know that word?
What is the word?
It's called petrichor.
Petrichor.
Petrichor. Petrichor. It and from what I recall reading 5 years ago, it's actually something about the first drops. Like what you're smelling is actually like bacteria or something that has been lifted off of the ground what it feels like just before it rains, but actually like there's been some drops to pull that up. It's a fun word and a fun phenomenon, and we all love it because it means.
I remember the rain been coming down. Clouds of mystery pouring,
Petrichor.
Confusion on the ground. Good man through the ages, trying to find the sun. And I wonder, still I wonder, who stopped the rain?
And I'm in. You stop the rain.
We can do it together, brother. We can do it together. I went down Virginia, seeking shelter from the storm. Caught up in the fable, I watched the tower grow. 5-year plans and new deals, wrapped in golden chains. And I wonder, still I wonder, who stopped the rain? Do. Hey, man, you've been playing your guitar since the last time we spoke, because that's when you should be playing too.
A little bit.
That's a strumming, a little bit. That doesn't sound encouraging to me. No, this is the deal. You're not going to get better unless you practice.
Oh, that's what I keep telling my kids.
Have you ever heard that?
Yeah. I should do that.
Heard the singers playing, how we cheered for more. The crowd had rushed together, trying to keep warm. Still the rain kept pouring, falling on my ears. And I wonder, still I wonder, Who stopped the rain?
What I want to know is, have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day?
Yes. So many times. I love that moment.
Yes.
And I burst into song, as you might imagine. Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, I will see you next week, I hope.
There's no reason why you shouldn't.
Well,
I'm on the mend.
All right. You be safe.
Episode number 147, 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 41 seconds.
That's completed.
Shut with that.
All right, that's it for episode number 147. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/147. There are many, many, many links to all the movies and crap we talked about. And if you become a Patreon donor at patreon.com/happyhour, you can, if you give at the gin and tonics level, you can watch a video of this nonsense. We'll see you next week.